Hello there, yarn lovers. It's Gary, and I'm coming to you from my happy place, the Yarn Corner here on Vancouver Island in Canada. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Saturday, March the 25th, 2023, and this is video number 179. How are you all doing? I hope you're well and staying safe. Well, today's a very special day for me. I'm celebrating my birthday, and we have some things planned, so I don't know how long I can spend on recording or whether I can edit this in time to get it up, but throughout the course of the next couple of days, if I don't have time to do all the editing and posting and uploading and all that sort of good stuff, then it'll come out later during the week. But we have some plans, and I'm super excited because we're going to try a restaurant this evening, and it's one that I haven't tried in our local area, so I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, enough about that. This is not a podcast about talking about birthdays, but it is a podcast that I've set up to talk about my yarny adventures. That's in knit, crochet, and I do dabble in a little bit of hand dyeing of yarn. I've yet to get into the garage and do that. I was thinking of getting into the garage last November, and then it got super cold really quick, and now I am back to sort of moderate temperatures, and I'm thinking about getting back into the garage and, well, getting in there for the very first time and dyeing, because I've just moved to this location. I've been here for just over a year now, and I haven't set up my yarn dyeing yet here in the new place, so the garage seems to be a likely place for me to do that. So if that kind of thing is of interest and you're just popping in for the very first time, then please stick around. I will leave all of the updates on the community and what I've been doing with my husband Chad here over the last little bit. There is an outing that I want to talk about. I'll put that towards the end. So if you're just here for the yarny goodies, they'll be up front. So what else have I got for you? Oh, comments from the last video. I'm looking at my show notes down here. I want to say a huge thank you so much to all the commenters who made suggestions on what I could use with some new to me yarn. Now this yarn has been in Michael's, I think, since the turn of 2022 to 23. So it's been around for about 3 months now. And it's the Caron Bloom Cakes. And I read some of the ideas on what people have used them for. There's been some tutorial suggestions, and I went over and popped in and had a look, and I'm well on my way to figuring out what I want to do with those cakes. There's blankets, there's an idea there for a long duster coat as well, which I'm super excited to get started on. But I have a huge queue and many larger WIPs that I want to talk about too, that have been taking me for, I'm going to say, maybe 2 months now, and I'm enjoying them. I just want to show you the progress, and one of them wrapped up just recently. So that brings me to talk about what Hank is wearing and what I'm wearing. So Hank is wearing one of my finished items that I worked on, and it's called the Bergen. It's by Martin Storey, and it is this wonderful, lovely, oversized cardigan with pockets. And I really learned a lot from this because my swatch was not getting gauge, and I struggled with the fabric too, because when I was knitting, I was laving the fabric, but then the gauge was off. And then if I went too dense with my gauge, it wasn't allowing that breathable fabric. I did like the sturdiness of it, but when I was trying to pack in all those stitches for the small area, it was getting too dense. So I had to do some calculations of my own. So there are modifications to the pattern, and I made some alterations along the way. It's for my husband, Chad, and I started it in November of 2022. So here we are in March, and it's towards the end of March. So it's taken me November, December, January, February, March, 5 months to finish. And he's been patiently waiting for it. He's already worn it, and I've taken some photos of him in it. So I'll add them in after I've spoken a little bit about the project. So what I had managed to modify was my pockets were different. I actually picked up stitches rather than stitching it on. And the collar is different as well. I didn't do the collar to pattern. I wanted sort of a shorter bomber jacket style collar, and the little, I don't know whether they're called bow tie flaps, but it's what they remind me of. When you're wearing a bow tie shirt, they have the little kind of like corner bits on the shirt so that it puckers up the bow tie. So I kind of call it my bow tie. It's like a lapel on the jacket, and I really like how it's high up, and it gives me vibes of the 1920s when they had this the woolen jackets back in the day, that everything was higher up. Like the 20s and 30s, they kind of made their jackets so that when gentlemen wore their cravats or their ties, you only got to see the knot at the top or the cravat at the top. So it was really, really a lovely alteration that I thought would add to it, giving that period type feel on the garment. Now, what I used was this book here for the pattern. It's called Simple Shapes Pure Wool Worsted, and it's got 9 designs in it. And all the designs in this book are by Martin Storey. I picked it up for a steal in a yarn store when I went into Victoria, which is the largest city here on the island where I live. And it was being sold off at a really good deal for $5.96. That was awesome. $6 and 9 patterns. And this is what the model looks like. It's slightly oversized. My collar's a little different, but fairly much the same style. And yeah, so it's a really great pattern. I'll link the publication down below if I can find it, but definitely I'll link the pattern to where you can find it on Ravelry, and it's a paid for pattern. The yarn that I used was, if I have some, do I have some here? Yes, I do. Yarn I used was Kensington by Haiku, and this is it here. That's what the label looks like. It's considered a 4-weight yarn. The color is called Lamington, and this is a yarn that is 60% New Zealand merino, 25% nylon, 10% alpaca, and 5% silk. So it's the nubs. I have heard some of my commenters say the nubs of the lighter color are the silk that didn't catch the dye like it has done with the rest of the fibers, and I really like that. It gives it a bit of a interest when it's worked up into a fabric. It's quite a sturdy yarn. It's not itchy, but I wouldn't call it soft either. It's quite a robust yarn, and I love the fabric that it makes up because it's not flowy in the sense that if you're wearing something underneath the jacket, it's not going to show up a bulge if there's like a ripple of a shirt, or it's not lying completely flat. So I think in that sense, an outer shell garment, this yarn is awesome for that. And yeah, or heavier weight sweater would be good too. And the stitches show up really nicely. This called for a seed stitch throughout the pattern, and I found the bubbles within the seed stitch, how it kind of like has the pearl bumps, showed up very nicely. So I could imagine a cable pattern working up really well with this too. So yeah, I have that hank left over, and I have a very small ball. So the pattern to size that I made measures a 44-inch chest, 44-inch chest, and it took me 8 hanks in the Haiku, and I had a little bit left over. I wouldn't even count it really. I had like maybe 10 grams left over, and that full hank, which was my 9th hank, which I didn't need. And I'm thinking about making something else for me in that because I do love the color. And the knitting needles I used that the pattern called for was a 4mm, and I used my Chargu stainless steel for all of the edging where there's a tighter seed stitch. And then the body work was done in a 4.5mm. I think it was a 4.5mm stainless steel. So I can now write that in my little journal as a finished item, which I'd done and completed last Sunday. And I've got some photographs of it, so I'll insert the photographs here now. So what did you think? We had a lot of fun down at the river taking those photographs. Chad's favorite photo is the Karate Kid moment he had on the rock. Whilst he was standing on the rock, there were all the rippling waves around him. He was in no danger, but it was a lot of fun to take those photographs. And I've just taken off my scarf because it's getting quite warm here, but I wanted to feature it. It's an awesome pattern if you have that one skein and you don't know what to do with it. So this one happens to be a sport weight yarn, and it's by Louisa Harding. It is called Pittura, and the colorway is called Starry Night. I absolutely love it, and how it works up is super light and delicate, and I like wearing it when it's kind of warmer weather outside and you just want that splash of color. As you can tell by the eyelets and the drop stitches, there's lots of breathing and airflow with this garment, and it's really lovely. I used, I can't remember, I think it was a 3mm set of knitting needles, and it's a sport weight yarn. I believe there are a couple of number of patterns that Joji Locatelli has brought out, and you can do different weights. I think there's Hipster Light and a Hipster. So I really enjoyed the pattern. I will set that aside because it is getting quite warm in the room. I'm sort of, you know, flustered a little bit. I think it was me running around today, preparing things for the video and then doing my errands before we get off and do our things. So I'll set that aside. I really love the pattern. And so number one, WIP 1 is done. Number 2 is a finished project as well. Here it is here. And it came from a free pattern. It's a beanie. I did some alterations to this because from my last podcast, I knitted this up in a different yarn, and I found that the decreases were quite sharp, but I love the pattern so much that I wanted to do it again, but then create more of a dome at the top. And I slowly decreased where it sort of said, because it's a free pattern, I'm not going to give anything away that's copyright, but it does decrease quite severely in 2 or 3 rounds, I think, maybe 4. So I stretched it out over more decrease rows. So if it happened to be like 4 or 5 decrease rows, I'm not too sure how many there was, I doubled it up. So, and in the end, I just did a twist, 5 division of 5 in the crown, because that worked out to be the right amount of number of stitches left. And I slowly did a normal decrease with 5 rather than cinching, as it says in the pattern to cinch. I think there's maybe around 18 stitches of cinching, and then I knitted the decreases closed rather than cinched. So this is what the pattern looks like, and it's called Johan Entanglement Beanie, and I'm going to mispronounce the name of the designer. I do apologize. It is Shweta Shankar Khatri. And there it is spelt out there. I'll link all patterns, any YouTubers, any tutorials that I mentioned in this video in the description box, so it's easy for you to find. And they are calling for 2 size needles. One is a 4mm on the brim, and on the body part it is a 5mm. So when you're doing the color work, I guess because generally what happens is you get a denser fabric when you're doing color work, so the size suggestion in the knitting needles is a slightly bigger one. And I find that generally that's what happens with hats. They ask you to go down a size if you're doing a ribbed style brim, and then your body work in your hat sort of is a size different. But I really love it. It's super, super squishy, lovely fabric. I like the contrast. The beautiful thing about this pattern is that you can choose to elect to have your meshy part, which is this kind of light brown, in a light color as it is here, or you can choose to switch the contrast around and have the darker color being the framing, and the background, which is, in this case, it's the darker brown, could be the lighter or variegated color that runs throughout the backdrop of the mesh. So very versatile pattern, and changes up in a matter of moments when you flick your A and B colors around, or choose different yarn to put into this lovely hat design. I love it. And the yarn that I used for the dark brown color was this one here. It is Cascade yarn, and it's called Luminosa in the color Tiger Eye or Tiger's Eye. And the second one is this one here, which I have this little nugget left. It was a 50-gram hank, and it is by Aracunia. Grace Wool is the collection name. This color doesn't have a name. It's a light brown, and it sort of shimmers as well. So it has, what is it that's making it shimmer? Is it silk? Yeah, it's 50% silk, 50% merino wool. It's a lovely, soft and shiny yarn. Almost metallic like this one as well. So they relate nicely together. Now I'm going to catch you up on what I've been working on with my WIPs. And this one you've seen before. It started in January sometime when I was reviewing some yarn from Hobby, and it is in the Woody Tweed, which is the collection of yarn. And this one is a 3-weight, yeah, DK weight yarn. And this is what I've got so far on my quilt patchwork blanket. You saw 60 of these little squares, which are duotone squares, and now I've got 100 all linked up together, and I was thinking of doing 140 squares, link them all into the pattern, and then do a border. So I'm almost done. I have another 40 to do, and I was going to just keep on going until I finish all 11 balls of the bright colors that Hobie sent me. And these are them. I've just got them in a project bag here so I can see what colors are in there. And I think that when I weighed this bag last, it was probably around 300 to 400 grams. So out of 11 100-gram balls, I have 300 grams left of all these leftovers. So I'm well and truly on my way to finishing all of them, and I just love it. I can't get it all into frame, but I do have some pictures of how I arrange them on the floor, like all these little granny squares that's duotone, and I just shuffle them around till I get it looking the way I want it to, and then I sew them together. It's just whip stitched. That's what I have chosen to join them, because I didn't want the break of the triangles with a single crochet or a slip stitch. I wanted to make sure that it was just the colors butting up against each of the next color that's next door to it, and creating the fun colors. I really like it. It's gonna measure around 50 inches by, what did I say last time? I think it was 72 inches, 50 by 72 or a little bigger. And because I have around 40 left, and I might have some spillage over of some extras to get through the yarn, I'm going to make a cowl out of it, out of the leftovers. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And this is how they look. I have another 12 here, I think it is, that I've worked up. And it'll be a process. Like, I've got to weave in the ends, then I soak them, I stretch them out to 5x5 granny square foamy that I pulled out of a packing. We bought a television, and it had some styrofoam in the packing, and I'm using those styrofoam for pinning all of these out by onto it, and measuring them to 5x5. I gridded it all up and everything, so it's working out really good. I love it. I love working on it. They're so addictive, and I will do them over my lunch break. I'll crank out maybe 2 little granny squares in a lunch break. So I think in 2 weeks' time, this blanket is going to be completed. And I'm using a, what hook am I using? I think it's a 3.5mm hook. It is quite a small hook for the DK weight yarn. And I'm finding that the yarn is very, when it wets and blocks, it does stretch out a lot because it does have, it's made from recycled wool. So it does have a little bit of the flexibility when it gets wet, that you can shape it nicely. And I don't know where my, oh, here it is here, as I'm crinkling and driving everyone nuts. Yeah, it's a 3.5mm crochet hook. I'm enjoying it, and the inspiration point of this was a pattern which started off in 2014 as a quilt pattern called Postcard from Sweden, and then later down the way a crocheter decided that they would do a template, and it's a free template. I'll include it down below, that this crochet group organization publicized on their website to make the crocheted version of that quilted pattern. So yeah, one last look. If I've got some photographs, I'll include them in here so you can see me, you know, what I do on the ground to switch them all around. And the last thing that I've got to showcase before I move on and switch gears to show some happy mail is a new project that I haven't shown before. I did take some snapshots and put this on my Instagram, but here is my next crocheted shawl that I'm making, and I'm absolutely enjoying this one. There are some new stitches in here that I haven't tried before. I have done bubble stitches in a previous shawl, crocheted shawl, but this is another version of bubble stitches. It looks a little different to the other pattern that I worked on. And the other thing that's new to me is it's like this interesting layered effect of dipping down past one row into another row, doing a little bit of, I don't know what that stitch is called. It's like a dip stitch. Yeah, that's probably not the terminology for that style of stitch, but I'm absolutely loving this pattern. And I don't mind that the pattern gets a little lost with this chestnutty color here, how it's sort of a little variegated. I do like that this gray has an interest or a little section in the pattern. It's not completed yet. I do have a chance to continue on with the pattern, doing the repeats for as long as I like. So right now, it's not even my wingspan. It's probably around 4 inches, 4 foot by maybe 2 feet. So it's not big enough yet for me. So I'm going to continue on, but I'm running out of the gray colored yarn. This was a test for me just to see what the pattern was like. So I used some scrap yarn, some healthy scrap yarn, and some really nice quality fingering weight yarn. And I'm really liking it. I think I could probably do it again with a different array of colors and choosing and laying out the colors a bit more kind of purposeful. Right now, I just thought, well, I have this lovely gray. It reminds me of a school uniform. In Australia, there's a lot of high schools that wear uniforms, and this gray reminds me a lot of the gray shorts or the jumpers that you wear when you go to school. And I wanted to get an exciting other nugget of bright color, like a rich color. So I chose this chestnut color. And I'm planning to move into a few more colors, and this won't be a choice because it's like a leftover or a scrap. This is a full skein of hawthorn here that I want to add into the end, and it is their Hood River tonal hand painted yarn. This is also, is it a superwash? Maybe, yeah, 80% superwash fine Highland wool and 20% polyamide. So it has a nice texture to it. It has a little bit of tonal, not as much as the chestnut that you saw, but I'm thinking of adding that in down the base here. So from the dark gray, it'll go into this kind of burgundy wine color. And I am going to do my next bubbly row in whatever was left over with that chestnut color. And that will be included in with the red where the bubbles appear. So you'll get that little contrast. And for some unknown reason, I picked this yarn out just to highlight one of the ridges that sticks out. And this is what I'll just do in one or two of the ridges in this yarn here. So it's a really experimental piece until I get to know a little bit more on the sectioning, as well as what I can do with the types of yarn that I'm going to be throwing into this. Generally, the last project that I worked that was fingering weight was in cotton, but I had all these leftovers in fingering weight. I wanted to try it in a wool base. So it's really super bouncy. Oh, and the gray color was a hobby yarn as well that they generously sent me, and it is the Dulce cashmere yarn. It's a gradated yarn which started off as the light gray, and now it's going to move into this dark gray here, and I have a little bit left. I'll just work on it until I finish it and cut it where it makes sense. Like if it's halfway through a row, I'll just rip that row back and just then go into the burgundy color. So, oh, I'm showing you the back side. There we go. There's the front. What do you think? So the pattern that I'm working on is from a designer that I've done a previous pattern, and this one is called the Triangular Scarf Rhoiteia. I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing that. And this is from Claudia Ramprich. That's the designer. I absolutely like it. You probably can't see it too well in that photograph because it is a darker purpley color it goes into. But you can see what it looks like at the top there, where you see bubbles and you see the ridging. It's such a beautiful pattern. And as with all these pattern sampler type style shawls, it's like a story. And once I start crocheting, I want to go to the next chapter and I want to try the next sampler section. And some of these sections don't show their full glory on what's happening until you are like on the 3rd or 6th row. And then you see, oh, it's creating like this wonderful fan pattern or a filet flower, or it's quite an interesting way it reveals itself after time. So yeah, I'm going to be working on this one probably tomorrow, because tonight we've got things going on and that calls to me, that pattern. I really want to get stuck into doing the next section, and that I believe is my last work in progress to show. I haven't done any work on my log cabin, which is the Addy Express. I'm cranking out these long panels and I'm working to a template, and I'm creating a blanket out of a log style cabin blanket. And that one is exactly the same as what I showed in my last podcast, so I'm not going to bore you by showing it again. Moving right along to Happy Mail. I have been spoiled as always. I absolutely love getting cards and reading all the fun comments and seeing the fun cards that people send me. So this one here came from my friend Melissa. Thank you so much for this happy birthday card. I won't read the inscription or the personalized message on this video, but I have read them and I'm going to put them up behind me here with my cards for my birthday and showcase them for a little while as I love them. Thank you so much. The next one comes from my good friend Emmy, and you'll see why I'm laughing, because on the card you'll see this appearing again, but great minds think alike, that's all I can say. So the cat is asking the dog, have you seen my yarn ball? And the dog is saying, no, I haven't seen it. No. So the printed copy within the card says, have all the birthday fun you can get away with. And then Emmy's written me a wonderful message. Thank you so much for that, Emmy. And just a reminder, you don't have to send me anything, but what I do receive, I appreciate and treasure. And I show the gifts and the cards on video just to reiterate just the magnificent generosity of the people in the community and how they have reached out. And we have communicated over the course of the last 3 years. And some of these have been very close friends. We've created a friendship and bond, and I really appreciate the friendship. It's the reward basically of doing these videos for me. So here's a package that arrived from Penny. And as you can tell, I've already opened it. I'm so terribly I have lack of willpower when it comes to a parcel that's has my name on it and it's waiting for me to see what's inside of it. So I want to get to it straight away. So let's read the card. Yeah. As I was saying, great minds think alike. So Penny and Emmy sent me the same card. And what are the likelihoods of that? That's crazy. I just got a message. I'll close that. But I won't read the personalized inscription. I've read it, but I won't recite it here on video. I love this so much. Okay, I am so spoiled. Sorry about the noise, the crinkling. I have received a Knitting Notions. It's a cozy, like a cake cozy when you have like a wound up ball. And this one has cute little dogs on them. Do they have any cats? They're all dogs. Yeah, they're all dogs. I love that. Thank you so much, Penny. So apparently Penny says she swears by this. It holds and contains a ball. When you're center pulling on a ball, it will help it keep its form and it won't tangle. So I can't wait to try that. Thank you. That's really nice. Does it come from a special company that I should mention? Oh, just Knitting Notions. There we go. And if you're looking for the store, that would be it there. The next thing, oh, my yarn soul weeps when I feel this yarn. It's so glorious. I have never used Expression Fiber Arch yarn before, and look at those colors. Love, love, love. They're wonderfully soft. And I was looking for patterns for hours and loving the whole trip down what I would use this yarn for, and I was looking at shawls. I was looking at combining it with other yarns for color work, for fades, and then for like crochet and knit. There were just so many options. So these will definitely go into a project. I just gotta wait for the perfect pattern. So a positive twist on yarn, that's what Expression Fiber Arts has on their label. This is a fingering weight yarn, and it, let me tell you a little bit about it. It is 75% superwash wool, 15% cashmere, and 10% silk. Holy smokes, that's why it's so deliciously soft. And they're recommending here that to use a US size 7 needle or a BG hook. Hand wash, lay flat to dry are the care instructions, most definitely. And in this, I think it's 100 gram hank, I'm getting 375 meters or 410 yards. The color that you're seeing here, me holding up, which is the multicolored one, is called a dragger. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing that correctly. A dragger. And this one here is called Barn Blue. Beautiful. This one is slightly tonal. I can see a bit of variegation in there. So when that knits or crocheted up, the fabric is going to have an interesting texture, which I absolutely love. And this one, I'm guessing that there's sort of short spurts of different colors, and will have more of a speckly or micro striping effect. But it is wonderfully, wonderfully soft. Thank you so much for this. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Penny. Now that moves us into what's been happening in the community, and I have to grab my notes, so I'll be back. I'm going to shift gears now and talk about what me and my husband have been up to in the community here. There have been a couple of outings. So if you're just sticking around for the yarny goodies, I want to wish you well and thank you for joining in. If you want to stick around and listen to what we've been up to, then you're most welcome to. So a day trip. Last weekend we went on a sunny day. It was Saturday. Very strange because it's been wet and quite cold here. So we had one break in the weather on the Saturday. So we jumped in the car and we went down to the cabin. The opening intro, if I've put it in, it's of this interesting surfer who was actually riding a remote surfboard. We thought that was astounding. So if you didn't recognize what the surfer was doing, you can go back and look at the beginning intro again and just see how technology has meant that we can explore new things and try different experiences. I thought that was wild that this person didn't need a boat to be dragged along, or, you know, there was no real jet engine kind of, it was quite a compact style of surfboard that had a motor on it, and it was quite compact. So like, I'm sure that they could store it easily and, you know, without much fuss, they're on the water in no time. So we burnt off some wood. There was some debris, so we had a bit of a bonfire, which is always a lot of fun, catching up with family and having a few laughs. That was awesome. We ate some food and then we came back in the same day. So it was a nice kind of turnaround, like to get out of the house for a bit and then be in our own beds of the night time, which is always nice to, you know, have an outing and then really enjoy the day. There also has been some new restaurants that we've tried. Now, I'll keep them into the next podcast because I want to add the one that we're going to be eating in tonight. So I'll be talking about food places around the valley here that I live in, on if you're ever visiting, that you can try out and maybe get some sort of delights that we've explored and really appreciated along the way. So I'm going to move now into what I've been watching. Now, these are some TV shows that are, one's a movie and the other one is a television series. And if you're stitching away and you want something to watch to entertain yourself, then maybe these are some suggestions that you could watch as well. The first one is Ted Lasso. Now, Ted Lasso has been a TV series that's been around for a number of years. I think they're on the fourth season now. Chad and I have watched it under the recommendation of Emmy. And Emmy, thank you so much for recommending it, because we enjoyed the first season so much we started binge watching. And because we were late to the game, we actually caught up to the first two seasons in a marathon of viewings over the course of maybe a month. So now we're in the new season and it's being slowly released. They're doing one a week, and we're liking that format too, because it gives us something to look forward to and we're enjoying it. So if you don't know who Ted Lasso is, this is a fictional character and it is based on the story of a coach that goes over to England to coach a team called Richmond. Now, he generally coaches a different sport, but the one that he's been sent over to England to coach is the soccer or football. In Europe, they call it football. It's a round ball that they kick around. And so he's put in charge of this club, and the club is kind of like not doing so well. So I think it's kind of almost like a punishment from where he's been delegated to and posted by his company or his affiliation that he works for. And he meets these wonderful characters. The first season is setting up the whole kind of like dynamic between all of the players and how they're all a little rough around the edges. But Ted Lasso himself brings a gentle humanity and humor to the whole storyline, which is wonderful. And so the characters, you'll fall in love with them. It's got some choice language, so just to warn people who may be like offended easily, that they do use football language. So I don't know whether that's the same in all countries. When you are a team supporter, you'll actually hear some choice words. So the second one is a movie, and we found this movie in Hidden Gems. Now, I think it might be on Prime, where they have these movies called Hidden Gems. Prime? Amazon? I think it is. And this is called The Grizzlies. Now, it's a Canadian film, and it features also team sports, but in a remote part of Canada, in Nunavut. And it focuses on a community that has a high rate of teen suicide. So if you are triggered as well by such stories, then maybe this isn't the story for you. But I like to know what's going on in my country, and the art of storytelling is a powerful message of experiencing all types of walks of life and ones that you might not experience. So watching a movie or hearing a bit of a story being told. Now, this is based on a true story that a teacher has been billeted out to a school in Nunavut, and it wasn't his first choice of placement, but he winds up there, falls in love with the students, and has created a outlet for students who don't have, or high school students that don't have much to do up in these remote parts of Canada, to concentrate their interests on something and focus on sports. So they create this lacrosse team, and I don't want to give too much away, but it is heartwarming. It does have some moments in there where you kind of like are wondering, how it's possible that under, these conditions, that there are these communities that have to face certain hardships, not just in like the weather or long nights because they're up north, but also because it's hard for them to get certain amenities in remote parts of Canada, that there was a line in there that struck me as really surprising, that a trip to the local convenience store to get some snacks, like, you know, bag of chips and a few other amenities, came to like hundreds of dollars, because it's so hard for them to get their product up there, and they have to account for all of that expense in the sale price or ticket of the items. So here we are thinking, am I going to buy a ball of yarn for $6 or $3? They have really the measure is far greater than between $6 and $3. They're purchasing things for a lot more money. So I think their experiences are limited. So when this teacher comes into the community, that he is providing them with another source of excitement or inspiration, or some sort of a drive for them to perhaps maybe see different parts of Canada, and they do get to travel, which is awesome. So that concludes everything on what I wanted to talk about. I hope those movie suggestions will be inspiring to you to watch as well while you're crocheting or knitting away, doing your craft. And I'm super excited because it's getting close. I'm not going to disclose any dates or, you know, specifics about my upcoming trip to the United States, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing my friend Crystal over at Bag a Day. And yeah, I think there's going to be some filming, and I have some things to like talk about when traveling. I'll be looking at some things that I might be packing in my bag, and I've valued all of the comments in past videos where people were telling me to buy the canvasy type bag that can be squished or packed into a suitcase. That way I'm not being charged for 2 luggages being transported. I'll pack it into my one check-on or checked bag, and then when I come back, I'm hoping that I'll find some great sales and I'll be able to purchase yarn to put in the canvas bag and just throw everything in there, and then pay for the 2 bags when it comes back with me to Canada. So yeah, I'm looking for the right bag for that, and I'll talk about that when it arrives, because I think I've picked one and I've ordered it. So we'll see. So all of those exciting things are going to culminate, and I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm super excited. So, okay, enough. I'm jibber jabbering now, and I will catch you in the next video. Look after yourself and stay safe. Bye.